So now our last topic. All right. So this is one I told you not to look up because I'm curious to hear what you think
one
about.
I literally, the only thing I've heard is literally just the title of this topic. That's it.
Yeah. Walmart and
it confuses
Superman.
So,
it's what I told him about.
What is this?
So, DC has started basically this. I remember seeing these at Toys R Us before, but you know how they'll give out comic books that are basically store exclusive comic books, where it's like a compilation of 4 or 5 stories in a comic book, but they'll only be sold in stores. So I remember seeing one of these at Toys R Us, and then apparently
they're usually tied into some kind of promotional material for an upcoming thing. Yeah.
And it's basically 4 stories with like a bunch of different ads of, hey, buy this event comic currently going on, Dark Knight Metal and all that. Well, they did that recently, but now because Toys R Us is no longer a thing, now it's Walmart. So now they're doing this for Walmart, and so they were selling this comic over in the, where the trading card section is basically in every Walmart store right now.
I do.
Yeah, where the magic cards are sold.
Slitting things open and taking the mythic. I mean, what?
Yeah. But, so, this is where they were selling this comic book, basically, by the trading card areas. So, not in the book section at all. Yeah, Walmart.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, naturally, if you saw this comic book, you probably would assume it's a Superman comic book, and it's over, Superman and like 3 other heroes, and it's over by the trading card section. So, you'd probably assume it's for kids, right?
Right, because it's in the game.
It's a very safe assumption. So, I will say this: it's nowhere near as bad as like the article that was posting about this was, was leading everyone to believe, because it was clearly a mother that posted this article, but she was like calling it things like a stuffed comic book and things like that, where it's like, okay, it's not that bad, but basically the Superman comic book, the Superman comic book that they were trying to sell to kids, the first couple pages, and this is like goes on for 16 panels if I'm not mistaken. It's basically a comic where Superman is on another planet and he can't get a hold of Lois Lane. So he starts imagining the worst scenarios that could possibly happen to her. So one panel, it's her getting shot in the head. Another panel, it's her getting tortured by the Toy Man. Another panel, these don't get graphic, but it's literally every panel you see of Lois Lane is her in a dangerous situation where she's being tortured or murdered. And even though they don't get graphic about it, that's literally what it is Superman just imagining her getting fridged in different ways. And this is being sold to kids. Now, I wouldn't call this a snuff comic or anything, because they never got that graphic about it. But still, they were selling it in the trading card section. And okay, as someone who worked at a movie theater, one of the things that would piss me off more than anything is parents who would basically take their kids to see an R-rated film like Deadpool or Logan, thinking, oh, it's a superhero film, so clearly it's for kids. And we'd warn the parents. The posters would warn the parents. I remember this. Yeah, and then they'd get mad at you because you sold them an R-rated ticket.
They'd come out 40 minutes later. They'd come out and be like, "What is that? You let my child see that?"
No, you let your child see that.
It's not.
So
it's really not.
I wanted to get that all off my chest before I go into this part, which is that with all that being said, though, I can't really say I blame parents too much for seeing a comic book with the trading cards, a Superman comic nonetheless, and thinking that games section, and then thinking, oh, my kid would probably like this. I'm sure he likes Superman. I don't blame parents.
Were these unsleeved or unpackaged? Were these like loose? Like, could you open them up?
I think you could open them.
I think
but
that's
at the
actually
same
worse
time,
then.
Yeah, I think
like if they weren't openable, I'd kind of get it, because you kind of have to just see it's a Superman thing and buy it for your kid, right? But if it's openable, you should probably check that.
You should, but at the same time, it's also like it's like, the very first few pages, and it's one of those where it's like when you flip it over,
goes and picks it up,
when you
it's
flip
gonna be
it
the
over,
first thing the kid sees.
When you flip it over, though, on the other side, you remember like with comic books, like when you flip it on the other side,
comic book day, it's like
a different comic book.
Yeah,
I think that's also part of the problem, is that the other stories were nowhere near that bad, so they might have been looking through the other pages, just skimming those, and if you're like skimming,
you see that all of a sudden the panel's upside down, and then you flip it over, and you're like, oh,
yeah. So I feel like a few of them, and unless you're like actually reading the comic, you probably won't know what's going on. So they probably parents were just skimming through it, seeing her in danger, and they're just probably assuming, oh, she's in danger, but Superman's going to save her, right? And then
It's just like 16 panels of death in a row.
Yeah, and then like
Wait, was this like 16 in a row? Or was this like
not
16
in a row.
individual panels?
It was 16 individual panels. It was like it would go from
Oh,
one.
so like you could like at first glance not realize she was like dying on the page, and then like flip it. Like,
it wouldn't be until you're like actually reading it.
Lois Lane died 16 times.
So yeah, it's just that in this particular scenario, I still think some accountability should go to the parents, but I also don't completely blame them for this when it's being sold by trading cards.
That one's hard. This is why this is like this is a huge problem in our culture, like in American culture, and this might even be like more world culture. I don't really know how Europe sees this. Just went to Europe, still don't know how they see comic books specifically, but that comics are perceived as like almost like child's toys here in America still. Like there's still this weird pervading thought amongst a huge portion of adults